Alright, I finally got around to doing this. And this is not going to be as much detail as I do it normally here, since this is going to be the final video of this sort of detail before I get to next season and the new ideas I might try for next season. But coming up now, soon, is PFA Bowl 3 in Los Angeles, of course, the first PFA Bowl outside of the East Coast, as this year would be the Cincinnati Colts going up against the San Antonio Longhorns. Remember 2 years ago in 2016, it was the Omaha Thunder beating the Chicago 71ers 35-9. And then last year, it was the Manhattan Greens in their home, even though they were the away team, beating the Pittsburgh Blitz 23-7. So what will happen this time? So I wanted to talk about all the teams and how they got there and all that crap. So we'll start off with the away team, that's the Cincinnati Colts. Of course, remember, they had their best season in franchise history. They made the playoffs for the first time ever, won the Century East, first round by home field advantage and all that. This is the first time that someone in the Century East outside of Pittsburgh won the division. They tied the 2016 Omaha Thunder and the 2017 Birmingham Hornets for the best record in league history at 15-3. And that was the best record in the Century Conference history, beating out the 14-3-1 that the Chicago 71ers just did last year. Now, Cincinnati's main strength is their defense, as I have their stats loaded up right now. They have the 6th best scoring defense. They have the number 1 defense in yards allowed. They have the number 1 pass defense, allowing just 176 yards a game. Wow. And rushing yards, 5th in the league, allowing 58 yards. So defense, they're really, really good. Now, their main weakness, though, is their offense, as I'm going to talk about right here, their stats. 13th in scoring, that's actually not bad, but a lot of that's probably more to do with their defense. But here we go with the actual yards. 23rd in yards, 20th in rushing yards, and 17th in passing yards. So, like around mediocre, like around average. Not like good, not bad. It's like just average. Now, the main weakness is going to be their offense. And remember, during the regular season, they got destroyed twice when it came of their 3 losses, and they were blowouts, including the fact that these two went up against each other. In fact, not as far, but this is the first time in PFA history where we had a PFA Bowl matchup in the regular season. Cincinnati visited San Antonio back in Week 10, and San Antonio destroyed them 30-10. So I'm sure they would like to get their revenge in that game too. Now, their offense normally this year, Cincinnati had so many games like 9-3, 6-5, 7-3 that they won these games, really low-scoring games that they would just somehow win them. They need something like that this week too for the PFA Bowl. And just like in the playoffs, remember, in the divisional round against El Paso and in the conference championship against Dallas, they were down in both games. They didn't lead until like the 4th quarter. They were down the entire game until the 4th quarter. When their offense needed to show up, they actually somehow did, which was almost never the case during the regular season. I mean, as I take a look at the stats, as Walter Morgan, their starting quarterback, he only played in 13 games. He had 13 touchdowns to 7 picks. As this actually statistically is his best season, but it's still not really as good as it probably should be. And of course, this might be his last season with the Colts because remember they drafted Monte Riggs in the first round of the draft this year. He didn't play that good, but he probably will eventually be the future starter. So Walter Morgan needs to really have a good game here. In order for the Colts to win, they need to hold down San Antonio's offense, and they need to have like an awesome performance by their offense. Because they can't have that 30-10 destruction that they suffered against San Antonio earlier this year. Their offense was completely shut down, and they got shredded offensively. And then speaking of which, we now go talk about the San Antonio Longhorns, as they were the lowest seed in the National Conference now to make it to the PFA Bowl. The third seed, 13-5. Of course, this year they made the playoffs for the second year in a row, and they won the division for the first time ever. They were a favorite to make it to the PFA Bowl this year, and after a strong start, they had, like in the middle of the year, they had like a stretch where they won a game, and then they lost a game, and then of course, with Tampa being like leading, it looked like, and with everyone else, San Antonio could possibly miss it even though they're playing good. But they went on to win 6 straight, made the playoffs. They beat Hawaii. Then they beat Indianapolis in a close one to make it back-to-back conference championships appearance. And then they shut out Tampa last week to make it to the PFA Bowl for the first time ever. Now, unlike Cincinnati, this team is balanced as hell. Offensively, their main strength with their quarterback Glenn Chen. Fourth highest score in offense. 9th in yards. 5th in rushing yards. 14th in passing yards. So their running game is actually better statistically than their passing game, which is actually incredible because it's supposed to be the other way around. As Glenn Chen, Elvis Smith, Scott Lopez, really strong weapons for the San Antonio offense. Defensively, that was their main weakness this last 2 years, but this year was like freaking elite. They had the 3rd best score in defense, 4th in yards allowed, 8th in rushing yards, 7th in passing yards. These numbers are just as good, in some cases even better than Cincinnati's defense. That is stunning. In fact, now that I think of it, as I take a look at the stats, yeah, they actually allowed less points than Cincinnati, so the main stat, they're actually better in my eyes. Wow. Incredible. So, of course, the main strength going to be for San Antonio to win their first title. They're going to have to do the exact same thing they did to Cincinnati earlier this year. Glenn Chen needs to go off in the games. He needs to go off in Los Angeles upcoming soon. If he could do that, and they can't stop him, San Antonio could easily get the win right here. That could be really possible. So, what are my picks for PFA Bowl 3? I'm picking San Antonio easily. I mean, it could be possible Cincinnati can get it, because, I mean, I did not think they were going to beat El Paso or Dallas, and yet they somehow did it. So, let's say they can't do it again. San Antonio, though, is going to be heavily favored in this game, even more so than El Paso and Dallas were. So, Cincinnati is going to be in a huge hole, especially since they lost them earlier this year. But we'll see. Maybe they can get the revenge and win this time around. So that's my pick. San Antonio, get it. But we'll see. Either way, one of these two teams is going to win their first title, and we'll see in Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum soon who will be the 2018 PFA champion. Will it be the Cincinnati Colts or the San Antonio Longhorns? We'll see then.